Hi, and welcome to the briefing for entrants in the 2017 iAwards. I'm Erin Rain, I'm the competition manager, and we're going to spend maybe half an hour just zipping through a little bit about the iAwards, how you can enter the iAwards, advice from our judges, and of course contact details for our team. The iAwards is brought to you by the Australian Information Industry Association, and we've been shining a light on tech innovation across the entire Australian economy for 23 years. In reality, probably that theme on the iAwards has only been here for the last few years. The iAwards has evolved over time, but yes, it's been around for a number of years and encompasses problems that are being solved with technology from within and outside of the ICT industry. So you don't have to be part of the ICT industry to be a tech innovator, and that's reflected in the makeup of the iAwards entries. We'll go through the award categories quickly. This slide is about student categories, as the next slide or set of slides is about organisation categories. So for students, there are 3 categories to choose from. Undergraduate students, which is not just university students, but any post-secondary education. You're looking at vet courses, TAFE courses, private college students, and that can be in individuals or groups. Senior students are for individuals or groups of students in the last 3 years of secondary school, and junior students are the students younger than that. So right down to primary school, we had, I think, a year 3 class enter last year. There are no fees to enter these categories. Students can enter based on work completed in 2017 up to the deadline, or work that was completed last year. The work doesn't have to be schoolwork. So your entry can be something you do in your in your spare time. It can be something that you and a friend are doing. It can be through a coding camp or some sort of tech after school care program or anything. If you are enrolled in a school and are working on something cool and solving a problem, we would love to hear about it. Just a note that if you're a postgrad student, you need to enter the organisation section of the awards, and most postgrad entrants wanting to come through the student entries have R&D have like research and thesis projects. So you just go through and make sure you select the R&D category where you'll be competing with other R&D entries. We'll move on now to the organisation section. We've got a few slides here. The important thing for organisations is that you put 1 entry into the iAward per project. You're welcome to put more than 1 project through or innovation through, but per project, you enter the iAwards once, but you can actually compete in up to 3 award categories. So I'll run you through how it works. Firstly, you have to select the relevant markets category. Then you have to select a technology category. So that can be a specific technology, or there's a general technology that has generic criteria. And then optionally, you can choose to respond to a specific stage category. So we'll just go through and show you what that actually looks like. So the markets category is the first one you need to select. And the question that you ask yourself is, what's the primary target market for the innovation? So the categories are business services markets, community services markets, consumer markets, industrial and primary industries markets, or public sector and government markets. Most of the time it's pretty clear cut which market your innovation either predominantly works in or sells to, or which market your innovation was developed for, which can be a good hint as to which category you should enter. There are some traps for new players. Don't get trapped into thinking that because you're in a particular industry vertical, that absolutely dictates which which markets category you're in. A good example is fintech. Most fintech entries would come in under business services markets, but there's some fintech innovation that is developed directly for consumers. So in that case, those projects would need to be entered in consumer markets. So just have a bit of a think. You can contact us if you're not sure, but at the end of the day, that's the question you ask yourself: what's the primary target market for the innovation? The next section that you select from, or the next choice that you have, is around the technology criteria. So there are 4 categories, if you like, to choose from. 3 of them will result in you competing for an additional award, and they're the big data / machine learning, infrastructure and platforms, or mobility. And if you select one of those, you're in the running for an additional award. And even if you're in, I would say, big data / machine learning under business services, for this award, you'll also be competing with the other big data machine learning entries across all 5 markets categories. So it's a good way for us to slice and dice the entries. If none of those 3 categories are relevant to your organisation, just select the general criteria. And that's really important because your responses to the technology criteria, actually, those scores form part of your markets category entry. Imagine that, technology answers in a Tech Innovation Award. But don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, we're going after the markets category, we don't need to answer the tech questions. You actually need to answer criteria from both sections. And then you'll just automatically be in the running for whatever category you have selected. The final section or type of award that you can enter as part of your application is called the stage category. So if you're at a startup stage or you're at the R&D stage with your innovation, one of these categories might be relevant. You can only choose one. There's a few things to note on these. This is optional, so you can choose startup, R&D, or nothing. You will need to make a choice between startup, R&D, or nothing on the form. Startups have to meet specific criteria in order to compete in this category. So you need to have formed your company after, I think it's the 1st of January 2014. The original developers or founders must still be the major shareholders, and the organisation can't be a subsidiary of a major organisation. So just something to keep in mind. I'll talk a little bit more about this now, but if you're entering the iAwards and you're really focused on one of these 2 categories, we have had feedback that people don't think they have to complete the markets category section, which is not the case. You still need to select a markets category and a tech category, as well as a startup or R&D. We recognise that the markets category questions, even though it might be the relevant market for your startup or R&D project, the markets category questions do lend themselves to organisations that actually have customers or clients. But you just need to do your best. Everyone in startup is in the same boat. You might be, or in R&D for that matter, you're all in the same boat, but the information that you provide in those markets questions really gives the judges good context. So there are sections about roadmaps, there are sections about your market research. There are some sections that I think a lot of startups and R&D projects will find more difficult to address, but if you give it your best educated guess and give some evidence as to why you think that, it will build a really good picture for the judges, as opposed to them seeing a whole bunch of nearly blank boxes and then a few startup responses or R&D responses. Those entries won't score very well in startup or R&D because the judges just don't have enough context, even though they're not assessing directly against the other criteria. So just a bit of a heads up about a good way to approach that. And you never know, you might not think you're in with a chance, but we think it's possible that a startup or an R&D project could take out one of those categories. We've got some side bets going as to when that will happen. We'll come back to that. Okay, so we do have other awards at the state level and at the national level, so rounds 1 and 2, but these awards aren't awards that you apply for. They're just awards that you are automatically considered for if you're eligible. So in round 1, that could be Premier's Awards, which are awards for excellence in public sector innovation, essentially. And some states and regions have those. And then in round 2, looking at the best of the best here, the AIIA Innovation of the Year Award and the Victorian Government Inspiration of the Year Award. And again, you don't need to do anything special except have a cracker innovation and a cracker application and follow the process through to be one of the finalists to be selected for those or to be in the running to win those awards. We'll just run through the progress and the key dates quickly. The published date I need to give you in this recording is that entries will close on the 23rd of March, 2017. I know that that deadline is going to be pushed back. I can't confirm what it will be pushed back to. So we will update the website. We will advise everyone registered in the system via email of the new date. But if you're watching this, listening to me, I'm telling you now, it will be after the 23rd of March. I just don't know how many days after the 23rd of March. Then we move into our judging in April, May. So we have about 120 judges who'll be assessing your entries. They all work in industry, they all have industry experience. They're judging your online applications. So the judges don't get together face to face. They're assessing your applications based on what you've written, the information you've included in your video, and making assessments from there. And then once the scoring is done, there are some review processes, the checks and balances that we have in place to standardize, I suppose, the scoring and assessment. We find out who's won in May and June. So I think the state awards events start the middle of May and run through to the middle of June. And that's when the winners are announced in each state and territory. And the winners and merit recipients go on to become the national finalists, and they compete in nationals in August. 28 and 29 is round 2, the national judging. Now this judging is face-to-face judging. You'll actually be pitching to a room full of judges who will be able to question you on your innovation against the criteria, against the iAwards criteria. And then, so what we do in July and August is do a bit of prep work with you for that. So we let you know exactly what you need to do. We, some states organise practice runs. We get you to produce an update and a bit of an information memorandum to share with the judges at nationals. And then on the 30th of August, the national winners and merit recipients are announced. We've got the iAwards Gala Dinner at the MCEC in Melbourne. It's a really awesome night. And that's where you find out who the winners in each category are, and also the winners of those extra special national awards. This next bit's not super important at the moment, but just so that it's in the back of your mind, the national winners and merit recipients can be eligible to go on to compete at the Asia Pacific ICT Alliance Awards, called the APICTA Awards. And basically it is the iAwards of Asia Pacific. So I think this year it's in Bangladesh in the end of November or early December, and we'll keep you posted when we've got more information. Okay, I like to show this graphic. This is just a little bit of information, just showing you the breadth of the organisations who've won iAwards in the past. When we put up this video, we'll link through to some of the footage of last year's winners. But in the past, you'll recognise some of these names, some of them you won't. There's a mixture of huge international companies and tiny not-for-profits. There's some student projects that have become commercialised, and it's just a really great mix of people. When you win the iAwards and you move on, or even when you're just at at the functions and meeting other people who are doing the same thing as you in all sorts of different organisations. That's really wonderful for us to see. Personally, it's one of the reasons why I do my job, because I love it. And as well as, you know, as we move on and when the competition wraps up, there is some networking between the judges and the entrants. But the relationships between the entrants is quite cool. I know from last year's national winners, there are, I think, 3 sets of winners who have actually, they work in different spaces, but they could see some overlap in what they're doing. They have started working together on aspects of their innovations, improving them and rolling out sort of upgrades or moving in different directions using each other's expertise, which has just been wonderful to see them develop in that way. There's a really cool video here, which we won't show you because you can watch it later. I'll just click through. I'll just go through how to start your entry, how to work on your entry, and then what happens when you submit it. We do have a website, iAwards.com.au. I would advise going straight to the entry form. Actually, if you've taken the time to listen to this, the best thing that you can do is register and start an entry and see what it looks like. That is the most accurate way to find the information that you need. The entry form set out pretty clearly, but because there's so many contingent fields, you get to make choices about which categories you're going into. We can't just give you a list and say, here's the criteria. The best way to get that is actually to log in and have a look yourself, depending on what categories, what combination of categories you think you're going to enter. So when you go to the platform, you register or log in. If you've been there before, you click Start Entry. Now you select the state. Now this is where the innovation was implemented. So if you happen to be working in an office in Sydney, but you're entering a project that rolled out in Brisbane, you need to select Queensland as the state. Every year we've got a number of organisations who enter multiple entries. They do a lot of work with clients, for example, and so they'll put multiple client projects in. And it's really important that we emphasise that you need to compete in the state where the work was done, the innovation was implemented. Then you select your category. So for students, it's pretty straightforward. For organisations, you select your markets category. Now, if you're an organisation, it will prompt you to select a sub-market category. Don't stress, you're not entering anything strange. All it does is helps us, when we get heaps of entries in a particular section, it just helps us sort those for judging. It's good for entrants. When we have multiple judging pools like this, there'll actually be more awards at the state level and more people going to compete at nationals. So it is not a bad thing for entrants, but please don't be confused by it. Just take your best guess as to where you think you fit, and that will help us compare apples with apples instead of potatoes with rockmelon. Then name your entry. It can be anything you like. It's not published. Helpful if it's meaningful, because we search for that. We search under that name when we're looking for your entry. And then click Save. It takes 10 seconds once you've registered. It'll take a minute to do this section. And then you've actually created a test entry or an initial entry, and you can go through and start checking out the tabs. There are a number of tabs. The number is different depending on if you're a student or an organisation, but the tabs are divided up pretty clearly, and you can go through and see what information is required under each tab. I'll give you a heads up, most of the fields are required fields. There are very few optional fields. Organisations will be prompted at this point to select their technology category and also what they want to do about the stage category responses. You can change these, but if you're going to drastically, if you've had like a mess around application just getting a sense of it, I would actually delete a test one and start a fresh one just to be safe. The other really cool thing is, if you're one of those organisations that has to have all of your application content approved before you can submit it, you can actually go to each tab and it will print as a PDF quite beautifully with all of the advice text and everything right next to it. So that's worth doing if you're one of those people that likes to look at stuff offline, or you need to go into a meeting with it all there. We like to give people a bit of warning. You do need the contact details of 2 referees. You will need logos for your project or organisation. And you do need to produce a short clip explaining your innovation. Now, the clip, we have no expectation that that clip is professionally produced. We absolutely expect to see face to camera or camera, like laptop, talking to a laptop, or, a recorded Skype or Zoom conversation with 2 heads on it, if that's what you would like to do. We will publish the videos on the website most likely, and the judges will see them, but we also don't expect you to spend money having these done. They are meant to be authentic. They're meant to give the judges an opportunity to see the people and the passion behind your innovation. And sometimes a little bit of video and photo footage can really help a bunch of text come to life. So we're hoping that it will assist you in getting your message across to the judges. But yeah, no expectation that it's all, dubbed and professionally filmed, please. Just a point, the platform saves your work as you go. You can return and edit as many times as you like until the deadline clicks over. Now, you can keep saving your work even after you've submitted. So please, please, please don't wait until the last day to submit. There are only a couple of us in our office. We do our very best to help people out at the last minute, but in the past people have had trouble getting a hold of us, in a few hours before entries close. What happens when you go to submit is that any incomplete mandatory fields are flagged. If you're over any of the word limits, it's flagged, and it basically won't let you submit until those things are fixed. There's also a payment step, which if you weren't expecting it and needed to organise a corporate credit card or something, that can hold people up. These are all reasons why you should submit at least the day before, when your application is 98 or 99% ready, and continue just to make those final tweaks after you've submitted the entry. So there are fees. There is no fee for startup entries and students. If your organisation is an AAA member, then your entry is $350, down from the regular price of $450, and that does exclude GST. Those prices. I'll just reiterate: entries may be edited after submission and before the deadline. Just something to keep in mind. Okay. Just want to cover this off again. This is probably the most important thing that I tell people when I talk on the phone about the iAwards, is just really emphasising that the iAwards is about solving problems with technology, or using technology to solve problems. The solving problem bit is really key, and what it implies is that you need to explain the problem. Now, we try to elicit that in the questions that we ask, but just being really clear, if you can explain what the issue is, what the problem that users are having, or how you're making it easier for people to do whatever, you're setting yourself up for a slam dunk, because then you can go in and say, our solution meets this need, this need, this need, this need, this need. So I think that's a really important thing to emphasize, and to understand. Especially if you've got marketing people working on this, it's a different concept to a normal marketing spiel. This is an awards program, not a marketing contest, and there is a difference in the information required to meet the criteria of these awards. The other thing that I have already mentioned, want to emphasize again, entries are encouraged from across the entire economy. Whether or not you consider yourself part of the ICT environment or not. I think last year we achieved about 50% of entries from traditional ICT environments, and about 50% of entries identified that they didn't consider that they were part of traditional ICT environments, which is really fantastic. But it's something that's difficult to get the word out to the non-ICT environment people, and something that we're really keen to encourage. Joint entries between clients and developers are encouraged, absolutely. And as I mentioned before, a single organisation may enter different innovations in different projects. Just being mindful that it's highly likely that they'll be in different states, or they may be in different states. So just be mindful of that when you start the application and work on it. Okay, so advice from our judges. I have been working with iAwards judges for 2.5 years now. They have been consistent in their feedback to entrants. I think the first thing is that entrants need to understand the premise of the iAwards. So we've been through that. It's about solving problems with technology. Be familiar with the entry form. Don't leave it to the last minute, even if you just go in and have a read of it now and then work on it in a couple of days. But understand what we're asking. The criteria have been put together for specific reasons in particular ways, and just trying to get a sense of how you're going to best convey what the problem is you're solving and why your solution is solving it well and uniquely, I think are the key points. Be concise and write clearly. Our chief judge always says, don't write 300 words if you can say what you need to say in 150 words. Something I haven't written down here, which is really important, is use evidence. So our judges are amazing, intelligent people. They all work in industry. They come from a variety of backgrounds. There's technical experts, academics, there's entrepreneurs, there's capital raisers, we have project managers, we have people from across the business spectrum and ICT spectrum. They're clever, they know what they're talking about, and they know how to Google. So refrain from making waffly general statements. If you're making a claim about your innovation, back it up, be specific. It's very easy for them to, and this is where the marketers get into trouble. So it's very easy for the judges to be dismissive if your claim is too general and doesn't have any reasoning behind it, or if they Google a feature and it's on 4 of your competitors' products as well. So if there's something that's different about your innovation and your product, be very specific and concise as to what it is and why it makes a difference for users. Okay. So the last point is, and I think I touched on this before, directly address all of the criteria. Scores from one category will directly impact scores in another category. As I mentioned before, your technology category scores actually form part of your overall markets category score. So there's a direct impact there. Those things don't have a direct impact on your R&D or startup scores. However, the judges are presented with all of the responses on a single page. They can read everything and then they assess everything. So we collect the information in discrete chunks. It is read all together, and then the judges assess your response or assess against the criteria that you've written to, but they can draw on all the information you've written to give you a score. So it's very disappointing when we see, incomplete answers, and I just wanted to clear it up. All of the criteria are important, and you should do the best you can, even if you feel like you're not strong in one area. Have a go. I'm not saying obviously don't make anything up, but if you need to take an educated guess, do it, and then write what you've based your figures on, or write what you've based your scenario on. There's a really cool section where we ask for a roadmap for organisations, and that's a really good reference point for you to continually reference in your other answers so that you're not repeating yourself. But it just really gives perspective as to why you're doing things a particular way, or gives context to the answer. So you're saying, well, here's our roadmap. We're at this point, and right now, this is what we're looking at, but this is what we expect in the future. And I think that sort of consistency and storytelling and I guess evidence-based approach is something that is regarded really strongly by the judges. Okay, we're here to help. Tiny team, but we're here to help. Welcome your questions via email or phone. Our email address is admin@iAwards.com.au and our phone number is 1300 665 145. I would absolutely encourage you to get online, have a look at the form, flick through all the different fields, have a look at what you think your categories might be. If you have questions, please call us sooner rather than later. Reach out. We are a pretty awesome bunch, but in all honesty, there's very little we can do to help you the morning of the deadline. If you can get us on the phone that morning, you know, potentially you won't have time to action any of our advice. So really encourage you to reach out sooner rather than later, even as you continue to keep working on your entry or entries. And we really look forward to hearing from you. I think that's about it. We're going to wrap it up. We wish you the very, very best of luck. We work on the iAwards because we love it, because we love finding innovators, whether they're hidden away or out in the open all across the country. We love bringing you together. We love celebrating your successes and seeing you learn from each other. And the feedback that we get, where you're able to put the skills that you've gained from being in the iAwards, put those skills to use for this project and for other projects. It really is wonderful to see, and we're really looking forward to welcoming you into that community. Have a wonderful day and best wishes for your 2017 iAwards entry. Thank you.